Mic check.
I'm good.
Mic check, mic check.
You can read about success all day long, but if you don't put in the work, the mindset, execution, and the hustle behind your vision, it just remains a dream.
When everything goes wrong, you have to take all the responsibility.
We uncover what high-level entrepreneurs, business owners do to rise up from hustling daily.
So do what you feel passionate about. Take chances.
The world becomes your library to help you to become better at your craft.
Join me as I share with you actionable tips to help you grow your business, learn skills, and help you level up in your self-development journey.
Your number one spot for business and personal growth is the Online Hustlers Podcast with your host, Esteban Andrade.
Every day I'm hustling.
What is going on, guys? We are inside of the new podcast episodes. This is the REIpreneurs, real estate investing entrepreneurs. In this episode, we're going to talk about how to make multiple 5 figures and 6 figures in the real estate wholesaling space in 2024. And it just so happens that it comes from people that are doing this game right. I've worked with this individuals for a few months, years now, and I know them from masterminds like Boardroom Mastermind, and they are operating their business remotely. They have a small operation that ultimately is getting a lot of deals done. Their best month this year so far has been it was about 2 months ago, June. They hit a $1 million run rate, and that is just the beginning, right? They have a big mission of making this one of the best real estate investing companies that ultimately helps homeowners go through difficult situations. And this is all about wholesaling. This is all about flipping. This is all about actually making a difference in the space. And we're going to talk about the steps, the things that they do right now in order to take their business to another level, what they're going to be doing, what are they currently implementing in the business, and some of the constraints that they currently have are applicable to you. And we currently have right now Abner and Jason, 2 of the co-founders of what's going on, my man? HPO Home Solutions. How are you guys doing?
Not much, man. Not much. Doing good. How you doing, Esteban?
I love this episode because you guys are also client of ours. You guys are also mastermind buddies. We've been in the same mastermind. It's a high-level mastermind. It's an amazing mastermind. So a lot of the things that we actually get from there, are so valuable. Like multiple 7-figure operators use this. They go there and ultimately mastermind with all of us. They teach us things. We take from them. We also give them, and they take from us. And it's such a great environment to be in. But not only that, one of the things that I loved about you guys is that you guys are currently operating an inbound marketing channel that a lot of people don't know how to operate, and a lot of people don't know how to manage it. We'll dive into that a little bit more. And you guys also have a remote team. So a lot of the things that you guys are doing, I love to dive in. I love to know exactly how you guys have basically put together this operation. A lot of people are struggling from consistency, and they can't get $10,000 in, $15,000 in, $20,000 in consistently every month. You guys have hit a 7-figure run rate. You guys have the mission of getting to that 7-figure run rate, and we're here to support you guys, obviously. But I love to know your guys' story when you guys come into real estate, because you guys have been in the game for maybe about 4 years now, and 5 years in the real estate game. I'd love to know where you guys come from. Tell me a little bit more about what's your background. Are you guys coming from another industry? Have you guys were born in the real estate space? Where you guys, what is it that you guys were doing before real estate?
100%. So on my end, so I'm a native Floridian, born and raised. The way I got involved into this space essentially was I watched my dad, stack up his rental portfolio, and so the idea that I had when I first looked into this was, one, I could either be a landlord, which one takes a lot of money, and obviously you have to collect these assets, and or being a realtor. And so the way I got involved was that I decided to go the realtor route. And in doing that, obviously, you get licensed, you hold that license and you try to, do business. And so I did that for a little bit, and ultimately I found that it wasn't something that like I was good at, but I still wanted to be in this space. And I was introduced into wholesaling, and decided to take a stab at it. And within a couple months, I had a proof of concept of like, okay, that's how this works. And in that time, I actually reached out to Abner because I seen that he was at an event that I was interested in attending, but I didn't get a chance to attend it. But he was there, and I seen that it was reposted, and he was in one of those pictures. So I reached out to him, and that's how we connected. I'm like, hey man, like I'm a realtor in the state of Florida, so I can help you out, with wholesaling if that's what you're doing. And so we connected, and then from there, man, we've been running. We've been running ever since. And I went all into wholesaling, like once we connected, and just kind of left the realtor space behind. And that's kind of where that comes from. I did this coming out of high school, like maybe 2 years after is when I got involved into real estate, and just I've been at it since.
Amazing. So Abner.
So yeah, man, I am born and raised here in Central Florida. Background, my family's from Mexico. Obviously, the typical, son to immigrant parents. They came here with nothing. They built a life for themselves. They were always. My dad was working construction. Since I can remember. Before that, he was, doing the picking oranges and picking apples and blueberries. Whatever he could, whatever job he could land. My mother worked in the. She essentially always worked cleaning hotels. That was her thing, right? So growing up, one valuable thing that I got from my parents was work ethic, right? And but I always knew from a young age that that wasn't the route that I wanted to go. I wanted to use my resources, my skills, my abilities to create something better for myself and my family. So, I initially, like during middle school and high school, I was the guy that would go around selling candy, selling chips, selling little bottles of Gatorade, all this kind of stuff. Always had that entrepreneurial mindset of, I'm gonna get mine my way, right? And so coming out of high school, I didn't get into. I'm 29 now. I didn't get into real estate until I was probably, let's say, maybe 24, 23, 24, maybe 25. I can't remember the timeline correctly. But obviously, I graduated high school at like 18. So I had like 5 years where, where I was working at a convenience store. That convenience store belonged to my uncle. And that convenience store had been in my family for a very, very long time, for 20 plus years. And so I started working there out of high school, and I kind of learned the ins and outs of that business, right? And then years later, my uncle was like, he was a tired business operator, and he was like, "Man, I'm gonna sell this business and whatnot." And I saw the opportunity. I told my parents, I was like, "Listen, my uncle's getting ready to sell the store. I pretty much know how to do everything." And I was, probably I was actually around 17 at that time. So I graduated right when I was around 17, give or take. All I remember is that I wasn't old, I wasn't legal, I wasn't an adult yet. And so essentially I was like, listen, he's selling the store. I know how to run it. I know the ins and outs. You guys, if you guys want to take this opportunity, just, like you guys take ownership of the store. You can count on me to run the store. And my whole thought process was, now we're going to be business owners and we're going to be free and all this kind of stuff. Fast forward a couple of years, we got into the business. We did what we said we were going to do, and it went well, thankfully, from day one. The business was already established where, we just kind of, think about it kind of like on a seller finance for real estate property. You kind of pick up the property where it's at, and keep it moving. Thankfully, from day one, it's been treating us very well. And we got to a point where, like, we were doing so well, and essentially, I was like, and I always had this itch for real estate. So I thought I had, I thought I was gonna be this flipper and whatnot. because I thought I had a lot of money in the bank account at the time. I was, I was still young and whatnot. I hit up a boy of mine and I was like, hey, listen, I want to be a flipper just like you. I got $10,000 in the bank account, man. I'm ready. It was like, you ain't got shit in the bank account. I'm like, okay. So he talked to me about wholesaling, and that day, boom, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make this work. Fast forward, I attended these seminars and masterminds. I had no clue what anything was. And, so I attended those. Jason hit me up, to kind of fast forward the timeline. We ended up starting this company together, and during the time, about 2 to 3 years into this, I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go all in into this. I essentially told my parents, like, you know what, you guys got this at this point. Everything is, stable. I'm gonna jump into this, and we've been running ever since. So that's kind of my, how I got into this, and how we started there.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. Obviously, you guys came in with some business experience, not necessarily a structured business experience, or not necessarily something that you guys already had some sort of momentum, but it was not necessarily something that you guys had a parents that would teach you frameworks or specific ways to really grow really really big, and specifically in real estate. So you guys being working your guys' way up to now being in the right rooms, right? I mean, was that your first ever investment getting into the boardroom mastermind, or you guys kind of try to figure it out for yourself for a long period of time until you guys actually made the investment decision?
Uh, no, so the boardroom was probably, it was definitely not the first. I mean, my first investment personally was the it was it was a gentleman by the name of Rafael Vargas. I don't think he's in the space anymore, but at the time he was like a big wholesaler and whatnot. And I had no idea I had just learned what wholesaling was like the day before. I saw he had a mastermind, and I paid 5 grand to attend his thing, hoping for the best. Thankfully, I learned a lot, a lot from it. But I mean, from there, then Jason and I met, and Enrique, and we kind of, we oftentimes hired um, other mentors, maybe not on a big scale, just people that we knew were doing what we wanted to do at the time. Whether they were doing a couple deals a month or this or that. So we've actually done, we've experienced a lot of different mentors, a lot of different masterminds from I think boardroom. So by far has been the biggest mastermind that we've been a part of. I mean, boardroom is a huge deal. But no, before that, I mean, we had spent, tens of thousands of dollars into different masterminds and different coaching and things of that nature. So, I mean, it took a while for us to actually get into like these, these big rooms where these big investments happen, and because we knew where we wanted to go.
Okay, that's good. I mean, right now you guys have learned that outbound, it's been a game of numbers and hitting a lot of leads, a lot of outbound calls, and a lot of cold people, and it works. You guys can target a specific people and target a specific data. You guys can do that, but you guys decided that inbound is the best route to go about right now, specifically in 2024. And even it's been running for a few years now, because I've been in the game for a few years, even before a lot of people started coming in. But tell me more about the exact processes that you guys have created inside of your company in order to build the consistency that you guys have been building. Sometimes getting to that, 7-figure run rate months. And I just want to understand, like, what level is your business? How does it create predictability of client acquisition system? How do you guys manage all your leads that come into your pipeline? Tell me maybe a little bit more about how your sales manufacturing plant is built, and how you guys automate your closings with dispositions and transactional coordination, It may be like, how's your team built? Maybe you guys, if we cover that, we maybe understand how you guys are ultimately getting where you're getting, and maybe growing to the point where now you guys are multi-seven-figure operation. So I love for the audience to know how your team is currently created and how all the processes are kind of set up.
1,000%. So for us, obviously, when we started in the business, it was a lot of outbound marketing, and obviously, as things changed over time, we knew that we had to pivot, just because we knew that it wasn't giving us the return on investment that we once were getting. And so it made us, look into inbound. We vetted companies, and we had a lot of sit downs, and eventually, we decided to run, with your organization, with Hustle Media. One, because obviously we've been in the same rooms, and we believe and trusted in what your product was. And so definitely on the marketing side of things, it's definitely a big collaboration with you and your team, in order for them to understand what we want, and for us to understand how do we effectively work what you've already set in place. And so essentially we broke it down into simple sectors, right? So obviously we have the marketing lead generation, right? In this case, it's handled by Hustle Media, that run our Facebook ads. And then it goes into the sales cycle, right? And in that sales cycle, we have our lead managers and acquisition managers. And obviously their sole purpose is to, keep up with the leads, right? Submit offers, and ultimately try to figure out what their ultimate problem is. Because at the end of the day, the people that are going to sell their properties at a discount are people that need to sell, that have to sell. Like, there's something going on, whether they're telling you up front or not, but there's something going on that you have to uncover, right? Find out that motivating key factor, and can we make the numbers work in order to solve that problem, right? And so obviously, Apple's going to do everything that they can to stay on top of it, submit their offers, and get them under contract in the scenario where we're probably not the right fit, or it's probably not that season for them, right? Because some people still have a little bit of time. Then they will go over to our lead managers, at which point they have, it's an endless cycle of follow-up. Like, they're going to follow up until that property, if they're ready to go and they're ready to come back to acquisitions and start that negotiation phase again. Or ultimately they end up finding the right solution to their problem, right? Sometimes it's maybe going the retail route, which is not a problem, right? At the end of the day, as long as they solve that problem, and then after the sales cycle comes the disposition cycle, right? Which at that point, we're doing everything that we can in order to get all the data that we need for that property. Most times it's getting inspections done, getting photographs back of the property, understanding where it actually sits in its physical state at that moment in time, and ultimately seeing if we have everything that we need that makes the deal make sense. At which point, when we have everything back and everything checks off, like, okay, this is everything that we discussed, then at that point we create our marketing. And one of the tools that definitely has helped us out a lot has been using InvestorLift, which is a platform in which essentially you put your off-market deals, and millions of cash buyers sit in that system hunting for these deals, right? So that tool has definitely helped us out a lot. It made us, it's definitely has helped making new connects with buyers nationwide, because we are working remotely, and we're able to target the entire state of Florida, the entire state of North Carolina, of Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, things of that nature. And so, it's definitely a tool that, it's an all-in-one system that helps you kind of like handle the nitty-gritty work, right? And obviously, at that point, we're vetting these buyers, right? People that are interested, right? We're collecting feedback from them. Does our price make sense at what we're trying to sell it at? Are they seeing something else that we're not, right? And at which point, if everything makes sense, we're going to obviously assign it out to that end buyer who is, hey, I'm willing to pay that price, or hey, I need to be at this price. Let's see what we can make work. And at that point, it's about, once we got the assignment obviously signed and everything, is making sure that all the parties involved have everything that they need with title, that they're getting all the paperwork submitted that they need to submit, right? That obviously the buyers are submitting all their stuff, and ultimately trying to get it to the closing table in a timely manner. So then that way, obviously, the sellers can get cashed out, get their equity out, go do what they have to go handle. Most times it's financial situations that they really need to take care of. And then obviously the trade on this is that the buyer's getting a house which they're going to put some money into, they're going to put the work into it, and then they're going to go off and sell it and then go make their profit. And so in the grand scheme of things, at a bird's eye view, that's kind of what it is. So marketing, sales, dispositions.
All right. So in one of the biggest things that I know I've seen and I've actually evaluated for myself is there's three things that real estate investing entrepreneurs or any entrepreneur need to really grow and position themselves to consistently growing and achieve levels of consistency. One is having the right skills. The second one is having the right behaviors. And the third one, well, having specific character traits and beliefs that would help you develop those behaviors and have those skills. Right now, where you guys are hitting, about 30K months, sometimes getting to those 87K months, and you guys are leveling up to be a seven-figure entrepreneur. Now, I mean, I call this, whenever you're hitting that 100K months, right? You're kind of like in level 2 entrepreneur, and then getting back to like level 3, where level 1 is kind of like beginner stages and so on. But you guys are in the second level of entrepreneurship, basically. So what are some of the skills that you guys have incorporated in your processes in your business that have currently allowed you guys to be at the point where you guys are at? And maybe some of the beliefs that allow you to behave the right way, the way that an entrepreneur really needs to ultimately grow. Let's talk about maybe in the department of let's talk mastering the acquisition side, so the lead gen, for example, or handling marketing and sales. What are some of the few skills and beliefs that really have you guys allowed to really grow to the point where you guys are at?
Yeah, man. So I would say it really goes back to what our core values are as a company nowadays, right? And some of those core values, it's number one, being committed, right? We're committed to what we set ourselves to. We're determined to tackle those tasks, those things that need work. If it's a property, if it's a certain skill, right? If I have to improve my sales skill, for example, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to, get resourceful, which is another one of our core values, and start reaching out to either coaches or studying, reading books, listening to other people talk, reviewing my own calls, things of that nature. Becoming resourceful is one of the biggest, like it's one of the biggest for me core values because we don't know everything. And a lot of times if we let our ego get in the way and for example we say, oh, this deal is dead because of X, Y, and Z. Well, maybe that's a problem that you thought didn't have a solution to it, but if you would have made that one extra call to a specific person, maybe it could have turned that deal around, right? And it's happened, right? Where we've gotten resourceful and we're like, oh crap, like I wish we knew this sooner. Now we know. We stay grateful and humble, man. So like we understand that when we have an objective in front of us, it's not, oh hey, listen, I accomplished it today, right? Now we're backing off. No, we're gonna continue pedal to the metal. And whether we have a good month or a bad month, we operate with the same
So
intentions, right? So
what are some of the few things that you were doing that you were not doing before that now you're doing it right, and it was just a change of mindset on the belief that you had about it? You said resourceful. You said that certain things that you were not doing before that you thought it was the right way, and now that when you realize uh, when you did it another way, a better way, now you get another outcome. What are a few examples that you guys currently do right now that you really was really bad before?
So one thing off the top of my head is like comparison to when we first got started, right? We were kind of, in a sense, obviously we were trying to make it happen, but I would say we were kind of running around with like a chicken with their heads cut off. We would all do the same things, do the same tasks, right? And then it would kind of not interfere, but it would create this like this fog, the expectations and responsibilities weren't clear, so it's difficult to hold somebody accountable to certain aspects. So in the beginning stages, all three of us were doing the same tasks and we were taking turns. For example, cold calling. We started off cold calling, no VAs, no nothing, just me and the guys. We bought lists and we spent 2 hours each on the phone. So I would go 2 hours, Jason would go 2 hours, Enrique would go 2 hours, and then we would rotate and start over, rotate and start over, rotate and start over. Well, it wasn't obviously, when you're starting off, right? The goal is to get that first 1, 2, or 3 deals that's going to kind of allow you to then take a step back and then put the right, pieces into place. So when we finally did close our first couple of deals, we were like, okay, there has to be a structure here for us to actually maximize our efforts, right? We hired or we joined a small mastermind with in which it taught us the structure of things, right? So now we got a bird's eye view of, okay, how do I make my time more efficient? How do I do this stuff the right way, not just kind of run around like a chicken with their head cut off. So we managed to put systems and processes into
And how long
place, and that was one of the
how long do you
things.
guys stayed with unstructured business, like with no systems? Like, how long were you guys doing that for until you guys realize?
What would you say, my boy? Like about a year and a
Like a
half.
year, about a year. Yeah, about a year. And then at that point, that's when we like, like we made the decision, all right, there has to be structure. There has to be like someone has to handle one part of, whatever, and then in our case, it's 3 parts, right? Marketing, sales, dispositions, right? And so fortunately enough, it's three of us. So we all chose what that thing would be, what we thought would be each other's best fit. And then we just became responsible for that leg of the business.
Okay. And what are the few things that like, if someone is trying to create a better structure for the business, and they haven't really gone to any of these masterminds or read the right book, or just follow the right whatever mentor, what is it that you guys feel is going to be valuable for someone that is listening to this that needs to add better structure for their current operations?
Yeah, so I mean, what I would say that would help someone out who's like brand new in this space, or they're really hustling and trying to get that first deal. It comes down to one, really understanding what you're targeting, what are you looking after, and then like I said, in this business, you make money based on people's situations in which they need help getting out of, right? So definitely choosing what you're going after is really important, especially as far as the markets that you want to be in. What do those markets look like? Is there distress in those markets? Because in some places people are pretty well off and they can mostly handle most of anything that comes their way, right? So picking the right places, right, in which like, hey, maybe in this particular geographical area the opportunities are going to be more because typically people in this area make maybe a certain income, and one bad situation can put him in a place where like, okay, I need to go ahead and take some action here and do something to get out of this, right? Which most times someone maybe inherits a property, they have a spare property, which they like, hey, I need to get the money out of this house, right? So picking the right places to be at, and then just being consistent and just improving your sales skills, right? Getting on the phone and not being afraid of making that offer, right? Because obviously in this space, you need to get these houses at a relatively discounted price in order for you to make money. And so just getting good at underwriting and like I said, presenting that offer, as much as that's going to make you feel uncomfortable, it's something that you have to do. And at the end of the day, the people that really need your help and that are really like in a situation that they have to sell, they're going to entertain that offer, right? And they might come back and like, hey, actually, I need this price. Okay, well, let me see if I can actually make it happen, right? Go back to Realtor, see if you can, adjust the numbers a little bit. And if you have to stick to your number, stick to your number, right? And those people that really have to sell, that want to sell, and that they like, believe, and trust you, they're going to go with you every day. Even if, we have multiple situations where we're getting beat out on offers, like they're telling us, oh, I have another company that's going to offer us 20, 30K more, right? But they're going to go with us because we've already established ourselves as one, the professionals, that we know what we're doing, that we can get it done, and that, we can perform on this price, right? So we've been able to, like I said, beat out offers that were way higher, but just because we established that credibility and that we knew that we could perform on it, because we knew that the numbers make sense, and you can't bend their full numbers. The numbers are the numbers.
Yeah.
And so that will definitely help people out. And then as far as like, okay, maybe they get to that phase where they do lock it up, right? If in the scenario where you don't have the time or the bandwidth to, find these end buyers, getting resourceful, right? Who in your market's already doing something? Who in your market is already they're movers, right? They're doing this business. Connecting with those people, like, hey, I just got a property in Orlando. Hit up the main guys in Orlando, whoever those top guys are. Most times, it's a new day and age, so you know who those guys are, right? You can find them on social media. If you're attending your RIA meetups and all that stuff, like, you will know who those guys that are performers are. Connect with them and like, hey, let's JV on this deal. I already got it locked up. It makes sense. Help me find a buyer, right? And at the end of the day, making something is better than making nothing, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're starting off. Don't be afraid to take that hit, right? Because one, it'll show that, you're fulfilling your A to B side, your front end, with that seller who you not have a commitment with, right? And then, obviously on the back end, yeah, you're gonna have to give away some of the, the pie, but it's okay because one, you'll be able to make the deal happen, and it'll only add proof of concept to you. So, just getting resourceful and connecting with people in your network and in your local area, your local market to, make those things happen.
Yeah. Okay. So it is very important to I call it you get to develop the right to earn before you actually ask for the money. So for instance, if someone doesn't know a skill or doesn't have the resources or just doesn't have the connections or knowledge, it's okay to essentially give portion of your time or give portion of whatever it is that you're currently making or currently whatever doing to someone else, work for free or work for a split until you actually learn that skill and develop those things. Like I did that for almost for a year and a half, and I also used to split 50% of my deals of everything that I closed with another person that had a better knowledge. So it's okay to do that, right? Especially at the very beginning. Like it could be a few months, it could be a year, it could be 2 years until you actually develop those disposition systems, right? Because one thing is like you may have a crippling acquisition portion of it, but you also may have a crippling disposition, right? And if you master one by one, it's easier than trying to master both. Because the way that I see things in here in the wholesaling, we are a service. We're in the service industry, but we're also are kind of like a marketplace. Like we have the supply and the demand, and we have to give. We have to keep the supply happy and the demand happy, and we need to acquire supply and we need to acquire demand, right? Some people need to sell their house and some people will want to buy this house, and it's easier to get people that want to get paid, but it's also harder to get people that ultimately need to pay or need to give something away, like pay for, in terms of, in this sense, it will be like giving their house and having to sell at a discount or having to sell whatever. That's that's ultimately the supply side, right? And the demand side, the buyer side, is another thing. So you have to be able to learn how to play that marketplace game in order to do it well, right? Okay, cool, that's good. So kind of automating disposition in that sense. Do you also do the same thing for TC? Do you have a TC internally? Do you pay a TC company to help you automate that part? Do you do all that paperwork yourself? Like, what are you guys doing there?
Yeah, so as far as the TCN, that is in-house. It's something that I handle, and essentially, the reason we kept it in-house because we understand that, like, we're gonna give it the attention and the attentiveness that it needs, and the urgency that it needs in order to get some of these things to move forward. Because more times than not, you're probably gonna. The reason that sometimes these properties have to sell is because obviously they're in distress physically, and sometimes they'll acquire fines and stuff from the city because they just have neglected this property for sometimes weeks, months, or even years. And when those things come back, on a title report, like, hey, this situation is what's going on with the property. We want to be able to get to it immediately, right? Talk to the right sources that we need to talk to in order to handle those. Which most times in these cases, you're talking to someone at the county level, at your local, local government, in order to handle those, or at city as well, in order to handle those situations, right? And you need to get on the phone with these people and have these conversations like, hey, I see that there's X lien on this property. What can we do in order to mitigate the fines, or how can we reduce them? How can we wipe them out completely, right? And you need to have those conversations and really try to push that paperwork forward, because if you don't, obviously it won't allow the property to close, get clear title, and sometimes it's been that at the city or county level, all they did is just they misplaced paperwork, and like, hey, this actually got cleared out a couple of weeks ago, we just never filed it. Okay, well, I'm gonna need you to file that in order for us to get clean title, clean conveyable title, right? Sometimes these fines are they're pretty big fines, but if you talk to the right people in the city or in the county, and follow the proper process that they want you to follow, they're able to reduce those things down. So now the seller isn't losing as much equity in that transaction, And so for that reason, we keep it in house just to stay on top of it, and just because we know we're going to give it that urgency, and we know who to talk to in these counties now. Especially if you start doing business repetitively in a certain area, you start to know who's in there, right? What person you need to talk to immediately. And so for that reason, we kept it in house.
Okay, awesome. So obviously, in order to help you guys solve acquisitions, you guys hired us as a marketing partner to get consistency on the lead flow, because generating leads is one of the biggest problems in this space, because not everyone knows how to generate leads correctly, consistently. It's definitely a skill set, right? And doing marketing is like a whole different game for a lot of people, where they come in from, maybe they are just not marketers at all, or they just don't know how to set up proper campaigns, and it's okay, right? That's also something you guys have delegated with us, to help solve that part. But the other part is not only that, the sales type of journey that you give to these leads once they come in, from the way that you talk to them, the experience that you make them go through, the conversations, the experience that you make them go through every lead management follow-up, from emails, text messages, to the way that you approach them, and ultimately the solutions that you're able to give them. That's the other part, right? Like, marketing is one thing, but marketing is ultimately attached and tied down with sales, right? So I know that you guys have been putting a lot of effort into you guys. That's why you guys are doing 1 out of 20 right now. And I even believe that you guys believe that there's a way to reduce that ratio. But what is that you guys are currently doing right now in order to give a really good experience to your sellers and create a more predictable client acquisition system, more predictable sales process, being able to acquire or help more people?
That's a great question, man. I would say when I initially when I was doing acquisitions, man, I would look at it as a transactional department, right? This is what it is. I got to offer you, 50 cents on a dollar, and at the time I didn't even know why exactly. I didn't know my numbers like that, but I just knew it had to happen, right? Over time I started, with sales, man. I mean, the way I look at sales, it's not so much of convincing somebody to sell you their house. It's more or less of being a good resource for them, right? Being informational, coming from a genuine place of wanting to help them out in their situation, right? Because to Jason's point earlier, when he said, like, we've had people that, and with proof, right? Not just somebody telling us, oh, because everybody's going to tell you I got a higher offer, right? But we have actually had instances where we know that there's been somebody out there who's offered them maybe 10K more, 5K more, and we actually got that contract. Why? Because we established a good relationship with the seller, right? I don't approach it in a transactional way where, you know, what's the property condition, what's your timeline, and all this kind of stuff. I actually go in depth into it, right? So I always start off my calls, right, just trying to understand their perspective, what they're trying to accomplish, right? And is there something going on with the property, right, that inclined them to reach out to us, go online and fill out a web form to get a cash offer on the property, right? Most people would think, okay, well, I just listed with the real estate agent, but it's not always the case for everybody, right? So you got to come from a place of, understanding, provide information, right? I often go through like in my sales calls, I often go through. I always have to understand where they're at, where they're trying to go, and maybe some of the challenges that they have, right? Because then in that aspect, I can maybe point them in the right direction, right? So if somebody is a cold lead, hey, I just want to see what my house is worth. I haven't talked to anybody else. I'm not really going to sell for the next, couple of years. I just want to, you guys popped up on my feed and things like that. It's not much I could do with it, right? Not really interested, right? But when you have people who come in and say, hey, listen, um, man, I bought this house 5 years ago. We had a fire in the house. Thankfully, we all made it out alive, but I pretty much like lost the house. Insurance paid me X amount of money, and at this point, I'm just sitting with a vacant house or burned down house that's it's uninhabitable, and code enforcement is going to get on me if I don't do something with it, right? So I have to figure something out. Okay, well, what have you done to try to figure this out, right? Oh, I've talked to a couple of people like you, and they all say they have to go out to the property and make an assessment and this and that and this and that. So it's like, okay, well, what's your perfect scenario, John, in this instance, right? What's your perfect scenario? Well, I don't want to include any more fines. I want to find somebody who's willing to move forward and just buy it off of me. I understand it's going to be more land value, but and okay, so we come in, and at that point, that's when, and this is actually a live, a real life scenario that we encountered a couple months ago. So at that point, we're like, okay, it's the first deal that we would have done in this specific market, in this specific state, actually. We don't know many people there, and we have to act on this right now, right? To see if we can help this guy, right? So we made a couple of calls. My dispo guy got a hold of somebody. Oh yeah, I'm definitely interested. I'll be interested in building it from the ground up again, right? Boom, we got it under contract that same and sold it that same day, for a good profit. And it's really just like and then during that process, I think he had an offer for like 5K over, but they were kind of like, they weren't giving him that reassurance. So when I gave him the reassurance of, hey, listen, we were going to get it done. I might not be at that price that this guy is at, but we're going to get it done after I had already been resourceful and talked to, whoever I needed to talk to. All right, let's go ahead and do it. Boom, we've got it under contract. We sold it almost that same day, and we closed on it a couple weeks later, and it was one of those things where, because I was there to add value, get an understanding of what he was looking to accomplish, what issues he's been facing up until this point, I knew I could do something with it, and sure enough, we did.
Oh wow. Okay. So have you guys ultimately, from all this that you guys have learned, put together some sort of like standardized process, or like some sort of like playbook, uh SOPs? What is it that you guys have done in order to come up with this type of solutions, that could come out of this, and then ultimately like come to a consistency? Or if someone were to come in as a team member, as a new team member, have you guys put together something like that so far, or how's that looking like?
Yes. So a couple of years ago, we sat in, a mastermind, and obviously they told us the importance of having steps and processes, and these things, over time, depending on how you run your business, some of the things you will have to adjust, but essentially, yeah, we do have a roadmap of what every lead goes through from A to Z, from the moment they come in from whatever marketing channel that is to the moment that we're at the closing table. And so we do have a mapped out process of what that lead will have to go through in order to get it to that final result that we would all want. right? And in that roadmap is, it states, what has to happen in that certain box, right? And who is responsible for handling that part of the process, right? So we do have a roadmap of that we do have to follow. We do have SOPs in place of like, hey, okay, so when the lead is at this stage, what are we doing? What do we need from that lead or that person, or what do we need to do here, right? And we document most of everything that we do, if not everything. And so in this scenario where like we are onboarding a new team member, we already have it like written out from A to Z. Like this is what your role consists of, and this is what you must prepare for, right? So it's more so for our sales guys, right? They have their roadmap that they have to follow in these conversations. What do we need to get out of this conversation before we're off the phone, right? What these are the things that we have to know in order to be able to formulate, that offer that's going to make sense to them and us, right? And so yes, it's super important to have those things mapped out. Super important to have SOPs, because at the end of the day, you're going to be doing this, and if you're trying to get to the point where it's consistent and predictable, you need to have these things in place, because essentially most people are going to run this exact same way every single time, despite the person, despite the situation, despite all of that, right? It's going to follow that process over and over and over again. And so then, like you said, it becomes predictable. And so, I definitely stress the importance of that, because if you don't have that mapped out, and like, let's say you're really trying to scale your operation and you want to bring on more people, they need to have something to follow. And, people only do what you put in front of them for the most part. And if they don't have something to follow, they're going to be clueless. They're going to be lost, and they're not going to perform at the level that you would want them to perform at. And at that point, you can't even blame them. You have to blame yourself as, the leader or the owner of the operation, or whatever the case is. You can only blame yourself for that, for not preparing well enough in order to, bring in more people and, put them in the proper place that they need to be in with the right resources that they need.
Okay. By the way, anyone listening and watching this, um, I'm creating a video of going over different type of processes in sales. Uh, well, there's many different ways to go about this, right? And there's many different ways to serve sellers. Well, you got cash, you got MLS flips basically, or MLS wholesale essentially, and which a lot of times people would say Novations is the way to go right now and everything. And Well, yeah, you got the cash route, but each one of them, if you have a streamlined process of sales where the first thing that as soon as they come in, you got to discover all their pain points and challenges and this in the current situation where they're in. You need to understand the gap of what they need to do, like what is it that they're looking for, because they are right now in here and they want to sell their house and solve a specific problem. But the reason why they want to sell their house is also deep enough. That's the discovery process. That's the discovery portion of it. And that's like the best call conversation or the best call that you guys can do. And that's where you take every single ammunition to then come back to them in another part of the conversation, another part of the call where you now are going to show them what type of solutions are going to be done specifically for that seller. Because not all sellers are created equally. Not all sellers have the same pain points. Not all sellers have the same goals. And coming to an approach where you customize the seller experience, um, it's like any other industry. Like you work in the service industry, you work in the could be even software industry. You work in even B2C or B2B. You still customizing your client experience. So that way you're going to be able to be like, okay, the seller does not necessarily only need this. I've seen this before, or this is kind of new. I'm going to customize what I'm going to be offering to this seller and my pitch to that seller. And that's done in a secondary type of call where it's like, I call it the home buying game plan call, right? So how we're going to buy your house, right? Or it could be home selling game plan call. How we're going to ultimately help you sell your house the most convenient way, fastest way, and for the right amount. Something that is a win-win. And that's another process where after having gathered the gap of where they are at, now you have put together a pitch that ultimately is going to include the right offer for the seller. And a lot of times you need to know that even though it's a repeatable thing for you, for the seller, it needs to feel like it's a customized thing. So that's second their call, and that it could be a 1 hour call. That second call, it could be two 1 hour calls, and it's a matter of following up with that person until that deal is closed, and then make them go through a contract. So, in my opinion, as long as you're able to understand that you can visualize a process and put it in a map, and then create playbooks and the standard operating procedures for each one of the potential routes to go, and then you practice this, with your sales team, you're going to be able to fix your crippling problems in acquisitions. So we're going to be putting like a YouTube video. I'd love to get your ultimate opinion on this. I'm going to send it to you, Jason and Abner. Kind of get like your 2 cents on this. Jesse Bush said, "Good job. Great job, guys. Great job. Keep killing it." Jesse Bush, you guys know Jesse. He's
Yeah, man, he's cool, man.
Yeah, he's great. He's a funny guy. But yeah, awesome. I love it. So I want to ask a real serious question here. You guys are, in the level where you guys are at, and obviously it's not where you guys want to be right now. That's not where you want to be in the next 12 months. How are you planning to be at $100,000, $200,000 a month type of wholesaling business?
1,000%. So one of the first actions that we took when we made the decision, like, all right, this is the next step for us. The fastest way to achieve anything is to be with the people that have already done it at that level. And so we decided to hire a business coach who also happens to be a part of the same mastermind in which we've all met. And, essentially like, hey, he said something all the time is like, being able to see around the corners. Right. And because he's already got it to that point, to that level, essentially he's given us the view of before we turn that corner. And, so hiring someone who's already in that level, or being around people that are already at that level, and just learning the things that they've already been through, the failures, the successes, right, the challenges that they go through. So then that way, when we do come across that situation, we're able to compromise or compress the time in which we handle that. Right. So one of the first things that we did was, like I said, get this coach to be able to help us, see how do we do this more effectively, right? Keep us accountable on the things that we should be doing in order to get there, right? And so that's one of the first steps that we took. Obviously, something that we've been doing for some time that allowed us to be predictable. And what we're going to do is keeping track of our KPIs, keeping track of the correct KPIs at that. And, just making sure that we're staying on top of it, hitting the metrics that we should be hitting in order to keep it at this very consistent level. And then as we scale and continue to do more, right, we'll have a visual, or we have a visual. All right, are we hitting these KPIs? And if we're not, all right, well, what's going on, right? Whether it's, not enough offers or not enough leads or not enough, this, that, or the other, right? Something, right? And, with having that visualization, we're able to pinpoint, all right, where is the constraint?
Okay. What about in the Abner side?
Man, so one thing I've been working on personally a lot is definitely getting the Novations to be the most powerful tool in our tool belt, if you will. The most powerful tool on our tool belt. That's one of the things right now. Like, we've done a few Novation deals, and we understand the mechanics behind it and everything like that. But we also understand that relatively for the same amount of effort and maybe a little bit more time, you could potentially, number one, get properties that maybe didn't work for a wholesale deal because maybe the seller wasn't that desperate and he wasn't willing to take that much of a discount. And number two, you're able to kind of, essentially on average, get a higher assignment fee, get a higher profit for these deals. So I think for us it's definitely. I mean, we've done cash since day one, um, creative, all that stuff we pitch and stuff like that. But now this season it's going to be freaking just getting Novations to be a part of the process on every single call, right? Even if we can get it for cash, right? Why not maybe offer an additional service, right? To yield us, bigger results. And at the end of the day, I've had people that understood the Novation route. They understood they could, what they can benefit from it, a bigger purchase price. And because of their situation, like I just want to sell this thing quick. They went back to a cash offer themselves and said, you know what, just cash me out at this price and I'll be happy. Right. So, adding Novations, just becoming a sniper with them, becoming an expert with them on the acquisition side is definitely. I mean, we've already seen it's definitely a plus. It helps a lot. We yield bigger results with Novations, but we want to make that to be the number one tool in our tool belt.
All right. So adding a streamlined Novations expert department, basically, in your sales team.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, you
Yeah.
know what they say about how to grow a business. You get more clients, right? You get more deals. You get bigger deals, or you get your clients pay you more, and you get repeated customers from the same customers. And that could be in the form of they keep coming back, or they keep giving you testimonials and referrals, and they keep sending you people organically. And you create a system where you have either more clients, bigger clients, reoccurring clients, or recurring clients, and you combine all this together. That's ultimately how you're going to go. And Novations is one of those tools that allows you to get paid more, right? So I love that, man. So anything that you guys like to share with people, anyone that's listening, or anyone that it's in the game, kind of going about it, it's in the trenches, that you guys had to like overcome a belief or something?
Yeah, 100%, man. I mean, I like to just kind of start off by saying, when we all start, man, we're hustlers. We're hustlers. We're hustling. We're in the trenches. We're day in and day out, maybe playing all the roles in the, in the for the transaction from A to Z. We're playing all the roles to make it happen. We're pulling the list, or we're getting, the lead incoming, and then we, nurture the lead, and then we convert the lead, and then we, dispo the lead, and then we TC the lead, and all this kind of stuff. I mean, we've all been there, and at some point, I would say starting off, most people, right? Not everybody, right? But I'm thinking maybe of my past self, where I wasn't too resourceful and things of that nature. You're gonna be in the trenches. You're gonna be, but remember that follow up is key, right? Consistency is key. Pick up the phone and talk to these people, and do not be afraid to make these offers, to talk to these people, to get cursed out, to I mean, you're gonna screw up sometimes, man. You're probably gonna lock some people up at a certain price, and then come to find out, damn, I offered them way more than I should have. Now I have to be the bad guy and say, hey, listen, I'm sorry this doesn't work out. It happens at the beginning, right? But it's very important to, going back to my company's core values, man. Stay committed, stay determined, stay resourceful, right? You keep picking up the phone every single day. It's only a matter of time before you had. I mean, there's deals that I've had now and in the beginning where it was like we call it a unicorn deal. Like, holy crap, this guy agreed to give me his price at a freaking huge discount. One of my first deals, the guy was going to, he was stationed, he was being deployed to Japan. He was in the military, and he called us one day from a bandit site. He said, hey, I need to sell. I owe this much, and I just want to get up out of it. I'm like, oh shit, what do I do? Like, so I got resourceful and stuff like that. I started making calls, and I was like, hey man, I can only offer you this much. I was scared because it was a lowball offer. It was like, okay, I'll take it. I was like, okay. And yeah, we ended up going through the whole process, super easy, really smooth. And all because I freaking made the offer, and I was just not afraid to go into it. And then once you do have somebody on the phone, right? Number one, if you already have it under contract, right? It's like Max Maxwell says. I know we all know who this is, right? This is who I heard it from. It's better to have half of a watermelon than a whole grape, right? So if you know if you are not, if you're starting off, you're in the trenches, you're making calls, and you get a property under contract, you're having trouble dispoing it, don't be afraid to be resourceful and get a hold of other wholesalers or buyers in the area. Hey man, help me move this deal, I'll split the fee, whatever the case is. Because number one is going to give you, like Jason said, is going to give you proof of concept. Number two, you begin to open relationships, right? And that's powerful. That's very powerful. Relationships in any business are very powerful. um, and yeah, man. So don't give up. Keep making those calls. Keep picking up the phones. And in times of need, or really at any point in time, reach out to fellow friends, other investors, social media, whatever you have, and just, hey, listen, I have this, or maybe you don't even have a property under contract, but hey, listen, Abner, I got this property. Here's the situation. This is what they want. I got to make a decision now, and I just don't know if it's a good deal. Well, hit me up, and we'll run the numbers together. We'll see if it works. If you need me to talk to the seller, I'll talk to the seller, and I'll still include you in the deal. We've done many JVs where they've brought us, a locked up deal. We've done JVs where we've locked up the lead for the person, and we still worked it out. So man, just be committed, be determined, and be resourceful at all costs.
Let's go. All right. Thank you so much for being in this podcast, guys. In this episode, if you guys got any value from this, share this with your friends, review this, tell us how it went, if you liked it, if you got any value whatsoever. Share it with people in Spotify, in Audible, in Apple Podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, great. Subscribe, and give us a comment. Tell us what you liked about it. And if you know Jason and Abner, then also reach out to them. How can people ultimately reach out to them, to you guys, in social media?
Yeah, so on my end, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Jason Cruz Ramirez. I'm probably the only Jason that looks like this. So it's not that hard to miss me. My lines are pretty open, as well as, if anybody needs to reach out through email, something like that, HPO Home Solutions at gmail.com. That'll be, the way you can get to all of us in the team. We'll have like a master account in which everything gets routed to. So if you guys need help with anything, don't be afraid to give us a shout.
Awesome. Abner?
Absolutely. So I am on Facebook, Abner Calderon. Instagram, I am Abner. I'm looking at the as who's joining us here at the on Instagram Live, and I see one other Abner, and that's a phenomenon for me because it's very rare for me to come across another Abner. So shout out Abner Flores. But I'll be one of the first Abners that pop up. Abner Calderon. You can reach me up on hit me up on Facebook and on Instagram, and I'll be happy to connect with in any way that I can add value or help anybody out in any type of way. Man, that's really what fulfills me, right? So if anybody has any questions, anything that we can help them with, anything they want to bring to the table and just kind of put in front of us, hit me up. I am Abner on Instagram, Abner Calderon on Facebook.
Abner, sir, Abner said it's definitely rare. We're a rare species. All right, guys. Hope you guys have a great one. Keep crushing it, and let's go. All right.
Let's go, man.
Let's go, man. Thank you.